Since 1947, the World Affairs Council has become the preeminent global stage for world leaders and the public to inform, engage, and debate the most important issues of our time. It's your world. Get to know it.
There couldn't be a better time, really, to have this discussion, I think. After the, it wasn't just over a year ago that we had an economic collapse of historic dimensions. You see headlines now about what's going on in Greece. What's that about? The deficit problems that they're having in some of the European countries. But of course, we know something about that here in California, right, where we've issued IOUs. The initial shock of the economic collapse, we're seeing lots of aftershocks around the world, in Europe, in the United States, and others, and we're going to see those for some time to come, I believe. And so it really is a good time to start really thinking about, is there a way we can do this better in the United States? That really is what the point of the book, of my book, Europe's Promise, is. 5 areas. One is in terms of the economy. Europe has actually employed some very unique institutions to create a very vibrant, robust economy, contrary to many of the stereotypes we've heard about Europe. And they've also introduced some elements of economic democracy that I find quite exciting. Secondly, in the areas of health care and supports for families and individuals, which is increasingly important in this area of economic insecurity. Third, in the area of energy and transportation, particularly in implementing some technologies having to do with renewable technologies, conservation technologies, and again, and that's an area that's increasingly important in this 21st century, in this era of global warming. Fourth, in the area of political democracy. When you look at how President Barack Obama is having difficulties passing anything in a filibuster gone wild Senate, where you need 60 votes to get anything done. And we also look at a recent Supreme Court ruling in which they basically have turned on the spigot on corporate spending in our elections. This is quite alien to the European way of doing democracy, where, in fact, I can't think of another legislature in the world outside of California where you need a supermajority to get anything done. And certainly in European democracies, you need a majority. They pretty much ban corporate donations. They use things like public financing of campaigns and other methods like proportional representation to create multi-party democracy. And then fifth, in the area of what I call smart power foreign policy, which is compared to America's hard power foreign policy. And so what you start realizing is that for Americans to enjoy the things that Europeans get in exchange for their taxes, we pay a lot more out of pocket. So we're paying in the United States a lot more for escalating healthcare premiums, deductibles, co-payments. If you're an American who, my sibling he's telling me he's going to be saving tens of thousands of dollars for his children to go to university education, whereas in Europe, they're getting that for free. Many students today in the United States, when they graduate from college, they have tens of thousands of dollars in loans. They're in debt when they graduate. You also have the average American is paying about, if you have children, about $12,000 per year for child care for 2 children. In Europe, they're paying, $1,500 to $2,000 per year for child care. So in order to really figure out who's really paying more, it doesn't make any sense to not include all these out-of-pocket payments. The only way you could somehow exclude that is if you say, well, and some do say this, that's discretionary. You don't have to have child care. You don't have to have health care. You don't have to go to a university education. You decide whether you want to pay for that. In the United States, you get to decide for yourself whether you want to make those payments. Well, on the one hand, that might be true, but in fact, in this increasingly competitive, multipolar world that we live in this age of increasing economic insecurity, I would argue that many of those things are no longer discretionary.